Dear friends, the Italian newspaper L'Identità has published my article titled, "There is a solution to the European crisis, but Brussels refuses to consider it," on February 12, 2025. You can find the link in the description of this video. Enjoy your listening and reflecting. In an era where Europe is facing the consequences of centralist policies and increasingly stringent economic regulations, the call for a return to the principles of true freedom and autonomy resonates with particular strength. The recent speeches on liberalization, such as the one given at the European Parliament by Donald Tusk, January 22, 2025, or at the 4th EU Health Summit by Commissioner Oliver Varhelyi, January 28, 2025, highlight a growing desire to move away from a bureaucracy that stifles private initiative and limits the free expression of national and local identities. Despite these appeals to freedom, the European political class, as a whole, appears too blind, too stubborn in pursuing policies that, far from uplifting it in the face of the rapid growth of powers like the United States, China, India, and Japan, push the European peoples further into the abyss. Just to give some data that can give us an idea of the seriousness of the current situation. Immediately after the financial crisis of 2008, the economic size of the United States was comparable to that of the Eurozone, while today the gap has significantly widened, with the American economy doubling that of Europe. Europe has essentially remained stagnant. This data is not just statistics, but represents an open wound in the socio-economic fabric of our continent, which has much to recover if it wishes to regain its position among the leading world powers. The indiscriminate application of regulations that infringe on the right to property and entrepreneurial initiative has contributed to weakening what should be a great family of peoples united in diversity. Today, instead, we see a politically centralized and socially fragmented reality, mainly due to government interventions that, under the guise of security, have limited the possibility of experimenting with more genuinely federal forms of organization. To further complicate the picture, worrying news has recently emerged about pressures from some European governments to modify regulations on artificial intelligence. One of the many promises, or threats, if you will, disregarded by the Union. It has indeed leaked that several European governments, with France at the forefront, have pushed for a modification of the regulatory framework on AI that, far from protecting citizens' freedom, favors greater state surveillance. This move, which goes far beyond mere interest in technological innovation, represents an attempt to increase power at the expense of freedoms, a principle in direct opposition to the inalienable respect for human natural rights, including the right to life, property, and entrepreneurial initiative. These fundamental rights cannot be sacrificed on the altar of a bureaucracy that pretends to know everything and guide every aspect of citizens' lives. The call for a renewed vision of Europe should not be understood as a rejection of the European project, but rather as an invitation to rethink it on more authentically federal bases, where each people has the right, also legally recognized, to decide its own destiny and, if deemed appropriate, to proceed with secession in a context of mutual respect and collaboration. The federal model of Europe still represents the only way out of the centralist spiral that has weakened the political and economic fabric of our continent. This model, which recognizes the diversity of identities and autonomies, can indeed allow for central coordination that ensures, with intentionally less interventionism and greater trust in the capabilities of individuals, the respect of true rights, the natural ones. Engaged citizens and politicians are called to deeply reflect on this crossroads, to continue on a path leading to increasingly centralized and paternalistic control, or to embrace a vision of Europe where individual freedom and local responsibility are at the center of every decision. In a world where global challenges require a coordinated response, it should not be forgotten that true progress does not come through external impositions, but through the free and conscious initiative of each community. Recent dynamics in the technological and regulatory fields serve as a grave warning. We cannot allow innovation to become a tool of surveillance and control, but it must serve freedom, genuine progress, and human fulfillment. The call to reconsider the European vision is an invitation to rediscover trust in the power of private initiative and the wisdom of the people, values that, if adequately recognized and protected, can restore Europe to the economic and political strength it deserves. Perhaps now is the time to reform Europe in such a way that it reconciles the federal principle with central coordination that respects autonomies, acting as a bulwark against authoritarian and centralist tendencies, and returns to citizens and entrepreneurs the possibility to express their productive potential, in line with the highest values of our authentic Western tradition.